The text came while I was stirring pasta on a Tuesday night. My phone buzzed against the counter, screen lighting up the kitchen tiles. I wiped my hands, glanced down, and saw Emily's name. Hey, guest list is finalized, and we had to make some tough cuts. Hope you understand. Love you. I read it once, then again, because my brain insists on mercy before it gives me the truth. Tough cuts. I stood there with a wooden spoon dripping sauce and thought, I'm her brother. My first instinct was to laugh. Not because it was funny, because disbelief sometimes wears a smile. I called Mom before the pain could harden. She picked up on the second ring. Hey, sweetheart. What's up? I just got a text from Em. Guest list is finalized. I'm not on it. There was a small, warm silence, the kind you use to set down a heavy dish without clattering. Oh, honey, she said, switching to the voice that always made me feel 12. It's just a wedding. Don't make this bigger than it is. Just a wedding, I repeated, and heard how even I sounded. Mom, I'm her brother. How do you have a wedding without your brother? They had to keep it small, she said quickly. Budgets, you know how. She posted that there are 150 people. A soft laugh that didn't reach her breath. Well, yes, but you don't mind crowds, and maybe they thought I wouldn't mind not being invited. I stared at the steam wavering from the pot. In it, I saw moving boxes I'd carried up 2 flights in winter. A Venmo transfer at midnight when her landlord moved the due date up. The morning I sat with her on the curb after Mark left, letting her cry into my hoodie until the fabric went cold. I've been there for Emily. Repeatedly. And now I'm a tough cut? Oh, don't be dramatic, Mom sighed. It's one day. With my family, one day is code for swallow it. I could see the next 15 minutes if I stayed on the call, me listing reasons, her smoothing me like a wrinkle she could press out with words. Emily would send a shrug of a text later. So sorry, hope you're not mad. I would say I'm fine. We would pretend that love and proximity are synonyms. I turned off the burner. Okay, I said. If I'm not needed for the big day, then I'm not needed for the fallout either. Sweetheart. I've got to run, I said, and hung up before the conversation could be folded into the drawer where we keep excuses. I opened my laptop at the kitchen table, the spoon still on the counter, leaving a red crescent. Flight search, flexible dates, window seat if available. A resort with more sky than ceiling. I watched the map shift from gray to blue, picked an island that looked like a postcard, and clicked purchase. I added the airport transfer and chose a room with floor-to-ceiling glass. It felt less like booking a vacation and more like filing a boundary. I didn't tell anyone. When the wedding weekend arrived, I zipped my carry-on, locked my apartment, and let a rideshare driver ask me if I was headed somewhere fun. Yes, I said, surprising myself with how true it sounded. At the gate, I snapped a picture of my knees angled toward a slice of wing and posted a line that made me grin as I typed it. Cut from the guest list, but I think I'll survive. The screen flooded with dots. Cousins sent laughing faces. My aunt, the sane one, wrote, "Take me next time." Then 3 bubbles stacked for Mom. Where are you? Are you seriously missing your sister's wedding over this? You're being petty. I sent her blue water and white sand and wrote, busy overreacting. Then I set my phone to airplane mode before anyone could try to rearrange my priorities midair. When the plane doors opened, heat rolled into the cabin like kindness. Outside, the air smelled like salt and blossoms, and the light, God, the light, turned everyone's luggage into polished fruit. A driver held a sign with my name. The SUV was cool and quiet, with a bottle of water beaded with sweat waiting in the cup holder and a towel folded over the seat like a promise. We slid along a road that flirted with the edge of the ocean. I watched palms bow, watched the horizon where the sun, like a coin. I caught my reflection in the window. A man who had finally stepped out of the role his family had written and into his own voice. My shoulders dropped farther back into the leather. The resort looked like someone had taken the idea of relief and made it architecture. Open-air lobby, stone cool under my shoes, fans moving the air like giant, lazy hands. A drink appeared in my palm before my suitcase did. Mint, lime, something sparkled. Check-in took 2 signatures and a smile. Welcome, the woman at the desk said, as if I'd arrived somewhere more meaningful than an address. In my room, the ocean started at the edge of the bed. Floor-to-ceiling glass ran wall to wall, and beyond it, the water was the sort of blue that makes your chest ache, like beauty is a muscle you forgot to stretch. I set my bag down, slid the balcony door open, and stood with my hands on the warm rail. The breeze came up from the beach and pressed against me, a soft, steady reminder that I had made a choice and it had brought me here. I took a photo, just the horizon and a corner of the balcony chair, and captioned it, "When one door closes, sometimes the other door opens directly onto a balcony with unlimited margaritas." I didn't tag anyone. I didn't need to. News, in my family, travels faster than planes. The first morning, I ordered breakfast I didn't have to make. pancakes that were all cloud, strawberries that tasted like summer had a flavor, and coffee that ruined other coffee. I ate on the balcony with my legs up and a book I'd been trying to read for months. A bird perched on the railing and tilted its head at me like we were both surprised I'd made it here. I went to the beach and let the water take my ankles, then my knees, then the whole argument out of my body. I swam until I stopped thinking in full sentences. I came back to a towel that had been smoothed as if a kind hand had been waiting for me to knead it. At the pool, I lay on a sunbed and practiced the art of doing nothing without apologizing. My phone stayed face down beside me. When I lifted it, it was to watch friends write, "You look annoyingly happy," and an old roommate say, "Teach me your ways." A notification told me Emily had seen my story. I pictured her in a white robe, hair pinned into a future she'd spent a year planning, scrolling in that slow, stunned way people do when they see a life they chose to exclude doing just fine without them. "Enjoy your day," I said aloud, though no one was near enough to hear me. "I hope it's exactly what you wanted." Late afternoon, the sky pulled the sun lower, and the pool turned the color of coins. I ordered something with lime and salt and condensation, and let it sweat against my palm. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was standing by to be useful. I was not the backup generator. I was a person in a chair by a pool, and that was enough. At sunset, I walked the length of the beach until the light went copper and the water licked my ankles like a dog that refuses to admit it likes you. Couples took photos in silhouettes. A kid tried to bury his father's feet and kept giggling when the tide cheated for him. I felt the ache of something, love, maybe, or just the memory of wanting things to be simpler than people make them. Back in my room, I showered the salt off and changed into a shirt that felt like air. I stood at the glass and watched the last light leave in a slow, generous exit. My phone buzzed once on the nightstand. I didn't pick it up. I let the message sit there, unclaimed, while I sat on the edge of the bed and listened to the ocean say the same thing over and over and somehow mean it differently each time. I could have been in a banquet hall somewhere, nodding at people I barely know, watching my sister toss flowers like luck. Instead, I was here breathing. And for once, the quiet wasn't punishment. It was a choice. I finally checked my phone when the sky traded gold for violet. One buzz, then another, then a chain reaction. The screen lit up like a slot machine. Names stacked in bright rectangles: Mom, Emily, Jake, Uncle Rob. Unknown numbers. A group chat that hadn't been active since a cousin's graduation. I let it vibrate against the nightstand for a minute. Just listening. The ocean outside repeated itself like a mantra. When I picked the phone up, I opened Jake's message first. He's the only one who uses punctuation. "Dude, you are not going to believe this. Groom bailed." I blinked. I read it again. "Bailed. What do you mean, bailed?" I typed. "Full on left," he wrote back. "Big blow up with M at the reception." Walked out the front door. Other messages landed like hail. "Mom, call me now. This is a family emergency. Emily, please answer. I need you. Where are you? Uncle Rob. Your mother is distraught. Get here." An unknown number. "We need to talk about what happened tonight. Aunt Lisa, almost certainly. She loves a passive voice." I stood by the window with the phone in my palm and the sea breathing in and out. Part of me felt a strange, hollow sympathy. I could picture the room, the wilted flowers, the DJ playing something Johnny while staff whispered in a corner. Then the other part of me remembered the text that started all of this. I wrote to Emily, "Sorry, I'm busy enjoying my overreaction. Hope the wedding was fun." I hit send and felt nothing but accuracy. Then I blocked her. I blocked Mom. I muted the family thread, where conflict goes to perform. The silence that followed wasn't cruel. It was clean. I slept with the balcony door open. The waves came in on a loop and took the hard edges off my thoughts. At some dumb hour between late and early, I woke and watched the moon lie down on the water. For once, I didn't rehearse a speech I'd never give. I didn't tell myself a story where I was the fixer. I let the night be the night. Morning smelled like coffee even before I ordered any. Light slid over the floor, turned the sheets into a sheet of milk. I stretched, reached for my phone, and immediately regretted it. Even with half the family walled off, they'd found back entrances, unknown numbers, old group chats, a work contact I hadn't messaged since 2019. 23 missed calls. 6 voicemails. I picked the first one because I recognized the cadence in the transcription. "Mom, breathless, sprinting through syllables. This is not the time for one of your moods. Your sister is devastated. We have to stick together. Call me back immediately. Delete. Emily," voice scraped thin. "I don't understand why you're doing this. You're my brother. Please, please pick up." Delete. Jake, whispering like he'd ducked into a pantry. "Heads up. Mom and Aunt Lisa are planning to stake out your apartment when you get back. Also, Grandma says the wedding was cursed because you weren't there." I'm not supposed to laugh, but I'm laughing. I saved that one because I could hear the grin he was trying to smother. I set the phone face down and stepped onto the balcony. The ocean looked like a sheet that hadn't been tucked in, edges ruffling, center smooth. Somewhere below, a staff cart hummed along pavers. Breakfast arrived in a cloche of steel and steam. Pancakes light enough to imply levitation, strawberries that made me suspicious of all previous strawberries, a mimosa that caught the sun and tossed it back in my face. I lowered the tray onto the table and took a picture of the moment where a person eats in peace. Caption: start of day, stress-free. Hope everyone back home is okay. Petty? Maybe. Honest? Absolutely. By late morning, I found a shaded cabana and made a temporary home of it. Book, towel, a drink with an umbrella that I'd normally make fun of. The bartender asked if I wanted the usual, and I said yes, even though I didn't have a usual until right then. That's how a new life starts. You pretend you've always had one. The phone buzzed again. One single, polite vibration. Melissa. If the cousins were a spectrum from chaos to common sense, she lived closest to the latter. Okay, I know you're ignoring everyone, but you're going to want to hear what happened after. Call me. You will love this. I sipped, considered, and hit call. She answered mid-ring, breathless laughter in her throat. Are you sitting down? I'm horizontal in a cabana with room temperature happiness in a plastic cup. Proceed. After the groom left, Emily detonated. Not tears, like volume. She threw a bouquet at the DJ. It thudded against his laptop like a sad, flowery meteor. I tried not to smile. I failed. In public. Oh, in front of everyone. Half the guests thought it was performance art. Your mom tried to do her calm voice, and that just made Emily louder. I could see it, the open mouth, the shaking hands, the way she gets when the world doesn't line up with the script in her head. And then Aunt Lisa said, and I am quoting here, "This could have been avoided if you were here." I sat up. If who were here? You, Melissa said, savoring the word. She meant you. She told your mom that you're the only person who can talk Emily down when she spirals, and if you'd been invited, you would have kept the groom from bolting. Let me get this straight, I said, biting a laugh in half. They excluded me, and now my absence is the problem to be solved? Oh, I'm not finished. Her voice went gleeful. Your mom snapped at Aunt Lisa, which woke up Grandma, who has been quietly judging this whole circus from the corner. Grandma stood up and told Emily, if you treated your brother like family, you wouldn't be standing alone in white. Then she sat down and ate a roll like she'd just cast a spell. I tipped my head back and laughed into the shade. I have never loved Grandma more than I do in this sentence. Right? Then your mom tried to call the groom's mother. Groom's mom said, and I swear I am not making this up, "This is your mess. Good luck." And hung up. I had to set the drink down. The umbrella wobbled like it was offended on my behalf. So, where does that leave our bride? Currently in a hotel room with her bridesmaids, still crying, still blaming the florist, the DJ, the venue, the phases of the moon. She tried texting the groom. He's not answering. Last I heard, your dad and Uncle Rob were debating who brought more shame to the family, the runaway groom or the Instagram of your niece. That's a tight race, I said. The sun slid a warm hand along my forearm. Do you want to know the best part? What? I don't care. Melissa's laugh was pure relief. You're allowed not to. For what it's worth, you did the right thing. I did the only thing I had left, I said. Thanks for the call. Enjoy your vacation, she said. And text me the name of that resort. For research. When I hung up, the ocean had gone from bright to a quieter shade of blue. I rested my head back against the cushion and listened to a world where I didn't have to triage anyone's emergency but my own. A breeze moved the cabana curtains and tickled the edge of my book. Somewhere behind me, a couple was arguing in the amicable way strangers argue. What do you want for lunch? I don't know, what do you want? The rhythm felt like a language I could choose to learn later. Not today. I opened my blocked messages just to watch the little numbers climb. There is a mean part of me that finds comfort in evidence, the log of calls stamped with time zones and urgency. Proof that when I stopped being useful, people discovered I existed. Proof that boundaries are louder to the people outside them than to the person who sets them. I ordered another drink. When it arrived, I raised it slightly toward the horizon. To doing nothing heroic, I said. To being a man in a chair. That evening I booked a sunset cruise because it felt like something a version of me who had always prioritized himself would do without asking permission. The boat moved with the soft arrogance of things designed for leisure. I leaned on the rail and let salt dry on my skin while the sun pretended to set just for us. A kid pointed at a pelican like joy had just been invented. The captain told a joke that had lived long enough to become good again. On the way back, when the harbor lights started pricking the water into constellations, a thought presented itself politely. Empathy. Should I feel bad for my sister? I turned the idea over like a shell and found it empty. Sympathy is not an apology for the choices other people made. She had chosen a wedding without me. She had gotten a wedding without me. Back in my room, I took one last picture, night water, the smear of the moon, a glass catching it all, and posted 2 words, 0 regrets. Then I turned my phone off and went to sleep with the balcony door open, the ocean doing the one job it does better than any of us, arriving and leaving on time. I woke to a room rinsed in silver. The ocean was a metronome. For a minute I lay there and let my bones remember softness. Then habit reached for my phone. It came alive like a trapped animal, pings, banners, the stacked insistence of other people's urgency. Even with my block list fattened, they had found fresh doors. 2 dozen missed calls. A few numbers I recognized from old holiday threads. One that, years ago, belonged to a photographer Emily hired for headshots. I made coffee before I made choices. Black, hot, honest. I carried the mug to the balcony and scanned the screen. Mom, you need to stop acting like a child and call me. Emily, I cannot believe you are doing this to me.
You are so selfish.
Unknown. Aunt Lisa. Rhythm unmistakable. This isn't funny. Emily is heartbroken. Do you even care? Unknown again. We need to fix this family before it's too late.
Fix.
That word again. As if we were a sink. As if I were the wrench. The only message that wasn't a command came from Melissa. Heads up, your mom is trying to schedule a family discussion when you get back.
Sunday.
At the house. Brace yourself. Then a follow-up. I know you're ignoring everyone, but please read this.
Love you.
I laughed into my mug. The steam fogged my glasses for a second, and the world went soft-edged. Kinder. Of course they wanted a summit. Of course they wanted the same play we've run since childhood. Gather, triangulate, install me as the hinge on which the door swings quietly. I set the cup down and typed back to Melissa. Thanks for the warning.
I won't be there.
She replied immediately. Wait, what do you mean? I'm extending my trip, I wrote. They cut me out. I'm cutting myself off. A pause, then her bubble returned. Okay, that's iconic. Send pics. And maybe the resort link. For a research. I smiled and opened my laptop. Flights first. There was a seat available on the morning I was supposed to leave. I moved the date farther into the calendar. The system asked if I was sure. I clicked yes with the kind of calm that feels like the center of a hurricane. I added 3 more nights to the room. The confirmation email landed with the subject line, "We're thrilled you're staying longer."
So was I.
Before I went down to the beach, I wrote one final text to the only 2 people who still believed this was a negotiation. To Mom and Emily, grouped because if they were going to script me into their chorus, they could at least share the message, you wanted me out of the picture. Wish granted. I won't be at any family talk. Have fun cleaning up your own messes. Then I blocked the fresh numbers they'd been using like burner phones in a bad heist movie. I put the device in the safe.
Not the drawer, not the nightstand.
The safe. I spun the dial like it was a ritual and felt the lock catch. The feeling that followed wasn't triumph. It was relief. Down on the sand, the day had already chosen to be generous. The water was that cartoon blue I didn't think real oceans got to be. A kid built a castle at the tide line and scolded the waves for poor boundaries. I rented a paddleboard I didn't know how to use and learned, wobbling, then gliding, then laughing out loud when I fell, and the sea returned me politely to the surface. At lunch I ordered fish that tasted like it had invented itself. A server set down a second glass of water without asking, the kind of grace I used to beg for at home. At some point I realized my jaw wasn't clenched. It felt like a private holiday, a day without bracing. Mid-afternoon, a shadow crossed my table. The resort manager, crisp linen, kind eyes. Everything to your liking? She asked.
More than, I said.
You run a place like people mean it. She smiled in a way that said she heard the words underneath. Sometimes the trick is to let guests remember what quiet sounds like. She left me with a slice of lime pie on the house and a joke about it counting as fruit. I took the hint and went back to listening. Palms hissed their yes/no syllables. Somewhere, someone laughed big as a church bell. I dozed. The world kept not needing me. It was addictive. In the late light, I let myself think about the coming family discussion as a hypothetical, an object I could turn in my hands without letting it cut me. Here is how it would go. We would circle the living room in chairs pulled from other rooms. Mom would call the meeting to order with a sigh, then ask if we could. Remember, we're family. Emily would describe her agony with her full actor's toolkit and end by asking if we could please move forward. Aunt Lisa would suggest ways to improve communication. Uncle Rob would blame the venue, the DJ, society. At some point, everyone would angle toward me, as if I were a lever. We all know how the scene ends, with me agreeing to carry something that doesn't have my name on it. I opened my eyes before the scene reached the part where I give in. I wasn't going to that theater. Let them workshop another ending. That evening I took a long walk down the beach, and kept going until the hotels got fewer and the sand got less curated. A dog found me and decided I was part of its route. We walked together in that companionable silence only animals and very old friends can pull off. When it veered inland, I stood and watched it choose its path without looking back. I took the cue. Back in the room, I cracked the safe only to put my phone in airplane mode and set an alarm for the morning, snorkeling because why not? No messages allowed to land. No one's urgency hitching a ride into my night. Sleep came clean and stayed. In the morning I woke with salt on my lips and a thought in my head that felt like a bell rung gently. I am not cruel because I am not available. Availability had been my currency with this family for too long. I had spent it until I was bankrupt. No more loans. I checked out the reef with a guide who knew every fish by a nickname. We hovered over a parrotfish like we were eavesdropping on a jewel. When I surfaced, the world above felt loud, but in a way I could now manage. On the way back, we passed a wedding on the beach. Small, intimate, all barefoot and linen, the couple laughing like no one else existed. For a second, something tugged at me, an ache shaped like what-ifs. The feeling passed. Love, done well, is a boundary too. Done badly, it's an excavation. By the time I reached the resort, housekeeping had left a note on my bed with a sprig of something green. We hope today brings you ease. I didn't know who wrote it. Maybe that's what made it perfect. Late that afternoon, curiosity nipped at me and I turned the phone on long enough to text Melissa a photo of the reef and a thank you for telling me the truth without weaponizing it. Her reply came with a selfie, her on her couch, hair up, popcorn and bowl, the caption family summit canceled. Then, Grandma refused to attend, said she'd already given her verdict. Without her, Mom called it off. Emily's taking space. I stared at the screen until it blurred. Something unclenched that I hadn't known was holding. Good, I typed. Let everyone take as much space as they need. I left the device powered, but I didn't open anything else. I poured water over ice and watched it sweat. I sat on the balcony and let sunset do its old trick. I toasted nothing, and no one in particular. On my last night, I wrote myself a note in the hotel stationery, the kind I'd find months later and remember where I learned it. Rules for coming home. 1. Don't attend meetings where the agenda is your compliance. 2. Answer after sleeping on it. 3. Love people without letting them rent you. 4. The ocean is always right about timing. I folded the paper and tucked it into the passport sleeve. I packed slow. I slept hard. The flight home was uneventful in the way peace always is. I didn't post a departing shot. I didn't know an epilogue to people who hadn't read the first chapter. At baggage claim, my phone buzzed once. Jake, you alive? Drinks when you're back. No moms allowed. I smiled and wrote, deal. When the rideshare turned onto my street, I saw my building with fresh eyes. Same brick. Same windows. A little more sky. I hauled my bag up the stairs myself and didn't resent the wait. Inside, I opened the curtains and the windows and let my apartment remember what air feels like. I made coffee and didn't check my phone. I showered and didn't rehearse a single speech. I sat at my kitchen table, same seat where the first text had landed, and ate toast with the solemnity toast deserves. Then I took out my phone and did 3 things. I texted Grandma a heart. I muted the family thread for a month, and I sent Emily a final message I didn't expect her to answer. When you're ready to apologize without excuses, you know where I live. Until then, take care of yourself. I put the phone face down and turned to the sink. Outside, the city made its unromantic noises. Buses sighing, someone arguing with a parking meter, a kid laughing like a kettle. It sounded like my life. It sounded like mine. That night, when sleep edged in, I heard the ocean anyway. Or maybe it was just my own breath, steady for once, saying the same thing over and somehow meaning it better every time. 0 regrets. Thank you for listening to my story. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you won't miss more real-life stories like this.